The appearance to the apostles. It was around 8:30 that Sunday evening when Jesus appeared to Simon Peter in the garden of the Mark house. This was his 8th appearance. Jesus knew Peter was wrestling with a great inner struggle. The turmoil in his mind weighed so heavily on him that it took a toll on his very being. Ever since he had denied his master, Peter had been carrying the crushing burden of doubt and guilt, tormented by the fear that he was no longer worthy to be an apostle of the heavenly kingdom. He shuddered at the thought of Judas's fate, and it even crossed his mind that he too might have betrayed the master. At times, he was gripped by the notion that if Jesus had truly risen, perhaps it was his presence that kept him from appearing to his own apostles. It was to this Peter, in such a desperate state of mind, that Jesus appeared as the dejected apostle wandered alone in the garden. As Peter recalled the loving look his master had given him while passing by in the courtyard of Annas's palace, and as he pondered the wonderful message brought early that morning by the women from the empty tomb, "Go and tell my apostles," and Peter, his faith began to overcome his doubt. He stopped, clenched his fists, and said aloud, "I believe he has risen from the dead. I'll go to my brothers and tell them." Barely had he spoken these words when a figure suddenly appeared before him, addressing him in a familiar voice. "Peter, the enemy sought to claim you, but I wouldn't let you go. I know you denied me with your lips, not your heart, and I forgave you even before you asked. But now, stop dwelling only on yourself and the troubles of this moment. No longer concern yourself with what the kingdom might hold for you, but let yourself be guided by what you can give to those living in dire spiritual poverty. Go and prepare to spread the good news of the gospel to those sitting in darkness. Arm yourself, Simon, for the inevitable battle, the struggle you apostles face ahead. Fight against the spiritual darkness and the suffocating doubts swirling in the natural minds of your fellow men, holding so many hearts captive." Then Jesus vanished, saying, "Farewell, Peter, until I see you again with your brothers." For a moment, Peter was utterly shaken as he realized he had spoken with his risen master. Moved, he confirmed to himself that he was still an ambassador of the kingdom. He had seen the Jesus who rose from the dead, and he had urged him to continue proclaiming the gospel. He rushed to the upper room and cried out excitedly, "I've seen the Master. He was in the garden. I spoke with him, and he forgave me." Peter's declaration that he had seen Jesus in the garden made a deep impression on his fellow apostles. They were on the verge of casting aside their doubts and believing in the resurrection. But then Andrew stepped forward. He cautioned his brothers not to be too swayed by Peter's story, hinting that Peter had previously seen things that weren't real. Though Andrew didn't directly mention the nighttime vision on the Sea of Galilee, when Peter thought he saw Jesus walking on water during the storm, he said enough to make it clear he was referring to it. Simon Peter was furious at his brother's veiled accusations, but he could only watch helplessly as the other apostles distanced themselves from him. Except for the twins, they felt great sympathy for Peter and both went to him, expressing their compassion and assuring him they believed him. Fortunately for Peter, this ordeal didn't last long. Less than half an hour later, just after 9 o'clock, it happened. The disciples were fiercely debating the possibility of the resurrection. Not only had they heard Peter's testimony, but now rumors had reached them of the 2 men from Emmaus who claimed to have spoken with Jesus for over an hour. Despite all the doors being locked out of fear of the Sanhedrin, Jesus suddenly appeared in their midst and said, "Peace be with you. Why are you so troubled when I appear, as if you're seeing a ghost? Didn't I speak of all these things when I was still with you in the flesh? I foretold it all, that the chief priests would hand me over to be killed, that one of you would betray me, and that I would rise again on the 3rd day. So why all this doubt? Why don't you believe the testimonies of the women, of Cleopas and Jacob, and of Peter? How long will you question my words? Now that you see me, surely you must realize that death has no power over me. I miss one of you. When you're all together again, Leave this place and go to Galilee. It's much safer there. Have faith and trust in God, and have faith and trust in each other. For I have chosen you to begin building the heavenly kingdom here on earth. I'll watch over you here in Jerusalem. Now go to Galilee. My peace I leave with you." After saying this, Jesus vanished from their sight. They all fell to the ground, praising God and worshiping their appeared master. This was his 9th appearance.